Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Om.
So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all so much for joining the Sunday Feast, ISKCON Columbus Virtual Sunday Feast. We are very fortunate to have His Grace Gaura Shakti Prabhu from New Vrindavan today with us. and he's going to speak to us on the reawakening the relationship with Krishna. And so Gaura Shakti Prabhu resides in New Vrindavan. So he has been introduced to the Srila Prabhupada books in 1970 when he was in his college in Minneapolis, and then he met the first devotees of ISKCON movement in 1971, and he moved to New Vrindavan in the summer of 1974, and he got his first initiation by his Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in January of 1975, and he also got the second initiation in 1976 June. That was the time, it was the last visit to New Vrindavan by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. So he has, from that time onwards, he has been contributing a lot to the ISKCON community, and he has helped in building many temples across the world, especially Mayapur, New Vrindavan, and other places as well within the United States. And he is also he has volunteered to attend the GBC College for the Leadership Development in 2018, and with having the primary intention to further develop the ISKCON community. And he graduated from that in February of 2019. More than that, like he's Gaura Shakti Prabhu is the regional secretary for our who supports Her Grace Malati Prabhu. So he has been helping us tremendously on the new temple project for ISKCON Columbus. We are great and fortunate to have Gaura Shakti Prabhu with us today. And with that, I will turn over to Gaura Shakti Prabhu. So thank you, Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachatisattarne. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. All right, thank you. I feel greatly honored and fortunate to be able to share with all of you a little bit that I know about Krishna consciousness. I wasn't given a particular verse to speak on, which I much prefer. I was asked to speak on a particular topic, so I will do my best. So please be tolerant and please forgive me for mistakes that I may make. So I was asked to speak about relationships, and as Vaishnavas, there are a few relationships that are of great importance to us. One, obviously, is our relationship with Krishna, which we have completely forgotten. And the process of Krishna consciousness is a process of reawakening or reviving that dormant, eternally existent relationship. And we do that by other relationships. One is by having a very formal, intimate relationship with a spiritual master who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hari or Krishna. And when I say formal, that relationship requires a few things. The formal part is that the disciple or aspiring disciple, we have to seriously or put forward very seriously and sincerely questions to the spiritual master and to the spiritual master's representatives in a humble frame of mind, not challenging, because we don't know anything about God. And the other relationships that are very, very critical is our relationship with other devotees. Because it is only by the association, help, and guidance of devotees that we can make any advancement whatsoever. It is only by the help, association, and guidance of devotees that we can understand the philosophy that's given in the Vedas. Because it's difficult to understand. Even Srila Prabhupada's books, which he wrote for the Western world, they're very difficult to understand. They need explanation, especially in our neophyte stage. It is very difficult to understand what he means by different statements. So in order to reestablish or reawaken our relationship with Krishna, we have to have other relationships, the formal relationship with the spiritual master, who will give us guidance and give us diksha initiation into the chanting of the holy name. And later on, if we are even more fortunate, we're fortunate enough to even meet a spiritual master. If our fortune is even greater, then we can also be given second initiation, by which the spiritual master gives us the qualification to actually study and understand Vedic literature. And the association relationships with devotees is also exceedingly important, because they can act as Siksha Guru, instructing spiritual master. They can help guide us through the intricacies of life, the little things in life, how to properly wash, how to properly brush our teeth, how to properly clean our bodies, clean our places of residence, how to offer foodstuffs properly to the Lord, how to prepare foodstuffs properly to offer to the Lord. So many details, practical details. They're generally not given by the spiritual master, but by the other devotees, our God brothers and God sisters and well-wishers, and so forth. So in order to have these relationships, we have to know what our position is in accordance with the other personalities. Our relationship with Krishna is that we are a tiny particle, a part and parcel of Krishna. But we've forgotten this. We've forgotten our relationship due to our contact with material energy. We're thinking that we're this body, male, female, human, dog, cat, tree, demigod, like that, so on and so forth. So in order to understand what our actual relationship is with Krishna, we need to develop relationships with spiritual masters, specifically with Srila Prabhupada through his books, and also take guidance from senior devotees who are more advanced than us, who can show us the intricacies of the path. Because the path of devotional service, on the one hand, is very simple. We chant Hare Krishna, we avoid the four sinful activities, meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, intoxication. We strictly avoid those. We chant a fixed number of rounds on a daily basis. Srila Prabhupada requests that we, for those who are initiated, that we chant a minimum of 16 a day. And he's often said, there's no maximum, but that is the minimum. But it can be difficult, although the process is simple, it can be difficult to continuously apply ourselves to that simple process. And that's due to our material conditioning, to our attachments. There's so many attachments in this world. We're attached to our spouse or not. We're attached to our children or not. We're attached to our parents or we're not. We are attached to our fame, however much fame we have. We're attached to our bank balance. So many different things we have attachments to. But we have to learn to transfer those attachments to become attached to Krishna. And to do that, it's not that we renounce the one and accept something else. No, we see the proper relationship between our spouse and Krishna, between our children and Krishna, between our parents and Krishna. We see the relationship of our job with Krishna, of our bank balance. We see how that's related to Krishna. We have to learn how to see everything in our life in its proper relationship to Krishna. because everything is related to Krishna, but we have forgotten what that relationship is. And the process of spiritual life is to become aware of the process, to actually embark on the process, and to achieve the final goal, which is love of God. So I'm going to take a top-down approach, so to speak, in the sense that start speaking about the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, unlimited number of Vaikuntha planets. And in each and every one of those Vaikuntha planets, they're filled with innumerable living entities who are all perfectly pure and perfectly aware of their relationship with the Lord. Now, one can have a relationship with the Lord in the spiritual world in 4 different categories. One can be a servant of the Lord, Dasya relationship. One can be on higher planets, not the Vaikuntha planets, but in Goloka planet, which is Krishna's planet. One can be a friend of the Lord. And in Gokula, which is even higher than the Goloka, it's part of Goloka, but it's separated. One can have a relationship as Sakya, friend of Krishna, intimate friend. One can have a relationship as a parent. One can also have, or another relationship that's available is that of lover of God. Now, God has no parents. So how is it that somebody can be a parent, the mother of God or the father of God? Krishna, he rewards these relationships to his devotees according to the quality and nature of their love and their desire to serve him. And to attain those positions of friend with the Lord, intimate friend, a parental relationship, or the highest, the lover of the Lord, it's exceedingly rare. And that's why even on in Krishna's planet, Goloka Vrindavan, these relationships are kept hidden, so to speak, from the they're hidden in a realm that's known as Gokula. And in the Brahma Samhita, Gokula is described as, it's compared to the hypanthium, or the whorl of a lotus flower. And surrounding this whorl, this hypanthium or pericarpal, there's stamens. And Lord Brahma describes in the Brahma Samhita that within this pericarpal are the bowers and groves where the gopis engage in very intimate, loving pastimes with the Lord. And Krishna is there with his cows, with his gopis, with the gopas, engaging in very, very intimate, pure, loving relationships. There's no tinge of anything else except love for Krishna within that realm. And the realm of Gokula is surrounded by stamens that appear to be like, large, I'm not sure the word, I don't remember the word that Lord Brahma used. But the analogy that he used are the stamens around the pericarpal of a lotus flower. And if you see one, there's all kinds of little filaments that come up, they're almost like towers. And they're surrounding the area of Gokula to keep others out. Because on the outside of that, in the planet known as Goloka, the same Krishna is there in the same form. However, the inhabitants of Goloka, their love for Krishna, it's tinged with a little bit of reverence. So they don't understand. They're not you can say they're not qualified to enter the realm of Gokula because their relationship has some reverence in it. They're still seeing Krishna as a higher level personality. Whereas to have a relationship as a pure friend, what do boys do? What do girls do with each other? can't speak for the girls, but I know boys, they joke with each other. They sometimes wrestle, they play, they have fun with each other. And sometimes, we defeat the other side, and sometimes defeated by the other side. And I'm sure many of us are familiar with Srila Prabhupada's descriptions of Krishna's activities with his colored boyfriends. Sometimes they would engage in wrestling matches, and sometimes Krishna loses in wrestling to his friends. And then Krishna has to carry the victor on his shoulder. And if you have any tinge of reverence towards Krishna, you cannot enter fully and purely and properly into such a friendship relationship, because it will just spoil the effect. Srila Prabhupada gave an analogy. Suppose that you are in a drama. Prabhupada said that when he was young, he was in a drama. Drama is about Lord Chaitanya, and there was a very famous Bengali director at the time. And the fellow actors, I don't know who approached these gentlemen, and I don't remember what their names were, but Prabhupada said that one of the actors approached this very famous director and said, "We're doing this drama. We would like you to come and teach us." And so he did. He agreed. And he taught them that you have to feel the part. You can't just memorize the lines and know where you're supposed to be on the stage and mechanically move around and mechanically repeat your lines. No, you have to feel it deeply in your heart. So if you're playing the role of a king, for example, you have to believe that you're a king. You have to feel like you're a king. And if you're able to feel like that, then you can act nicely, and the audience will be very appreciative. And Srila Prabhupada said that in their drama of Lord Chaitanya, the director was instructing them like this and teaching them like this to make sure that they're able to express their parts with feeling. And Srila Prabhupada said that when they were performing for the public, he said people were in the audience were crying. He said, I couldn't understand why they were crying. But obviously, it's because when you're feeling your part, when you're actually expressing through your feelings and through your emotions, it comes through very real, as opposed to rote repetition. Oh, I memorized these lines. I know this shloka. I don't have any idea of the realization of it, but I just know the words. And like that, it can be quite dry from that perspective. So Prabhupada went on to explain the analogy that somebody wants to be a king in this world. Okay, Krishna will allow them to be a king. And so they take birth in the family, proper family, they're given proper training, they're given proper dress, proper everything, so they can truly feel and act like they're a king. Are they a king? No, we're never a king. But sometimes we act in that capacity. In the example of the drama that Srila Prabhupada was in as a young man, the audience was the local people, and they were very pleased and satisfied. In our drama of life as aspiring devotees, who's our audience? Who are we performing for? Our audience is Krishna. In the sense that we are supposed to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Everything. That the end goal should be to please Krishna with our activities. So the problem that we have is that under the influence of the material energy, we are thinking we are something other than spirit soul. We are thinking that I'm the body. And Srila Prabhupada spoke of this skin disease repeatedly. Whatever the nature, composition of the skin of the body, that is my identity. Oh, I have the skin of a man. Okay, I'm a male. I have the skin of an American. I have the skin of a dog. So we're thinking along these lines. And because Krishna is fulfilling our desires, therefore we are trained perfectly well how to act like a dog, how to act like an American, how to act like a man, how to act like a tree, how to act like a fish. But all of these misconceptions simply further bind us in the material world. So one of the main symptoms, one of the main differences between spiritual and material, that which is material, it has no living symptoms. No living symptoms. Like I'm sitting on a chair and at a table, talking to an inanimate computer. These are all material objects. That what is spiritual has all living symptoms. In the spiritual world, there are no things, there are no its. Like in the material world, we talk about it, we talk about that, we talk about the thing. The chair is a thing because it's simply inanimate matter. It has no consciousness. But in the spiritual realm, excuse me, everything has consciousness. And I mean, I just said everything. No, everyone has consciousness, even in whatever, regardless of the form that they are assuming. Prabhupada writes that the trees in the material world and the trees in the spiritual world, they're both living entities, but the trees, they're lacking, but the trees here in the material world, they're lacking living symptoms. The human being is a living entity, and the devotees in the spiritual world are also living entities. But in the human beings who are not Krishna conscious, the real symptoms of life are absent. Now, that's an interesting statement that Prabhupada made. The real symptoms of life are absent for human beings who are not Krishna conscious. So what are those symptoms of life that are absent? We look around in society, there's people everywhere. But Srila Prabhupada is explaining here that those human beings who are not Krishna conscious, the real symptoms of life are absent. So what is the difference? The devotees know about Krishna. They know that there is a God, that he has unlimited numbers of names, of which Krishna is, means the most attractive person. And devotees, we know that we have a particular relationship with Krishna. We know the process, the means to obtain, we know the goal, and we know the process and the means to attain the goal. And so these are what distinguish us from non-devotees. And so these are actually the real symptoms of life. The fact that we know the goal of human life, the fact that we know that there is a process, and the fact that we are actually trying to follow that process. We're on that process. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila 22:107, there's a very nice verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunaya Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karye Udaya. And the translation is, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So the eternal love for Krishna is present within our hearts. It's eternally present. But our problem is that that love is covered over due to our infection by when we came into contact with the material energy, with the material nature. I got a nice statement here. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. the material nature. It's the field of activity where the false ego acts as the spirit soul. I'll read that again. It's a very interesting statement. The material energy or the material world is the field of activity where the false ego acts or pretends as the spirit soul. He acts as the spirit soul. And what is the nature of the pure spirit soul? Eternally, we are eternally enjoying in full knowledge and full bliss. But the false ego is trying to achieve that complete happiness, complete knowledge, and eternal life in a environment, a field of activity that's just the opposite. It's Achit, Asat, and Nirananda. It's temporary, it's full of ignorance, and it's full of misery. And in that environment, we, the conditioned, bewildered living entity, spirit soul, we're trying to act as if we are Sat, Chit, and Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. We're trying to achieve those things. And it is an impossible situation, and it's impossible by design. Krishna designed it in that fashion so that we can never be happy in this material world. We can never have full knowledge in this material world. We can never have complete bliss, complete ecstasy when we're in contact with this material world. We have to be like the lotus flower, which grows from it can grow from very dirty water. It's rooted in mud even. And it rises above the water. But when you put water on the leaf of the lotus plant, it's not affected. It does not become wet. Here in New Vrindavan, behind the palace, we have a pond, a little pukur that is full of hundreds and hundreds of lotus plants. And sometimes I'll go there and sit on the edge and just, throw water on the lotus flowers and just watch it. And it doesn't, when the water gets on the leaf of the lotus flower, it no longer acts like water in a sense that it doesn't saturate and make the leaf wet. The lotus leaf actually cannot get wet from the water. The water will just roll around in different forms, kind of something like a ball, but just, if you've ever had or seen mercury from a broken thermometer, mercury on a table on a flat surface, it just moves around. It has no fixed form. Anyhow, that's the best I can come up with an analogy for water on the leaf of a lotus. I think also water lilies have a similar effect. So if you're ever in a lake or a park or something, if you haven't done it, I urge you to do it. Just go over and put some water on the leaf and watch it just move around. It's fascinating. And that's how a devotee must live in the material world. That we are here in the material world, but we are not part of it. In Bhagavatam class this morning, we were hearing about Maharaj Parikshit. It was the 18th chapter, first canto, where he is in the hermitage of I forget his name, the Rishi Samika. I think that's his name. Anyhow, whose son Shringi cursed him. And Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport that it's really amazing how Maharaj Parikshit acted when he went to the hermitage. He acted like he was extremely thirsty, hungry, and fatigued. And he was affected in a material sense by those feelings. And Prabhupada writes that a pure devotee of the Lord is never affected or affected by hunger, thirst, or fatigue. It's not that these things don't happen to the body, but these things don't affect the consciousness. Now, the body will become tired naturally. The body will become hungry. It's natural. But the consciousness is not afflicted. It's not adversely affected by these different material symptoms. So in exactly the same way, we have to live within the material world in this present body and not be affected by what happens around us, what happens so-called to us. Prabhu said, never become upset with the instrument of your karma. And this is a little bit of a tangent here, because we all have karma that we have to go through, so-called good karma, so-called bad karma. But we cannot let our consciousness be disturbed by what happens. And he said, never become upset with the instrument of your karma. And for those of us who primarily associate with devotees, our karma comes primarily through the devotees we associate with. So it's very natural for a conditioned soul to find blame outside of ourselves for whatever adverse thing happens to us. And so we try to assign blame to somebody, and sometimes we become angry. We're angry with our boss, sometimes with our spouse, sometimes with our children. But Srila Prabhupada instructs us that these are simply agents of the Lord who are delivering our karma to us. So the karma is coming through these individuals to us. And we have to make sure that we do not become upset with the person or the instrument that it's coming through. Rather, we have to understand this is the reaction to past activities that I performed, whether it's so-called good karma or so-called bad karma. So in that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So that love is dormant within our heart. Srila Prabhupada will give the example many times of a baby bird. When the bird is just born, hatched from the egg, it can't fly. Although the innate ability is there within the bird, it's dormant at the time of birth. But when the bird becomes a little older, the parent bird will push it out of the nest, and the bird either will fly or crash to the ground. And at that time, it has to get up and fly. Now, human beings, regardless of our age, regardless of how developed we are or are not, we never have the ability to fly on our own, unless, of course, we have some mystic ability. That's a different story, different subject. But the bird has the innate ability to fly. It simply has to reach a point in its personal development where that ability will become manifest. In exactly the same way, we have dormant love for Krishna lying within our heart, but we don't have access to it because of our impurities. Another analogy I like to give to help with understanding, it's like having a trust fund that we are not qualified to access yet. Say our parents were very wealthy, and at one point, they passed away when we were at, let's say, 12 years old, and left us phenomenal wealth, both monetary, real estate, whatever, in the trust fund. But there are qualifications that we have to achieve before we are eligible to access what is in our trust fund, what has been left by our parents. Sometimes it is a particular age. We have to reach an age of 18, 21, whatever. Something like, could be age. It could be other qualification. For example, it could be a particular level of education. Our parents want to make sure that we went through college, whatever. There are certain requirements that must be met before we can actually access whatever is left to us in the trust fund. Now, the trust fund is secured for us. Nobody else can have access to it. But we have to be personally qualified. We have to qualify ourselves so that we can access it. So in a similar fashion, we have these godlike qualities. As tiny particles of God, We have the same mystic powers of God in minute quantity. We have similar form of God. Whatever attributes the Lord has, we have them to a limited degree. Not necessarily all of them. I forget what the statistic is. Anyhow, it's there in the Nectar of Devotion, I believe. Something like 56%, 65%, something like that. I don't recall. We can possess at most that percentage of the qualities of God, but we have to qualify ourselves first. And the process of qualification is the process of Krishna consciousness. So in that particular verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj, he's writing that this love of God, it's a naturally lying within our heart. It's not something that we gain externally from a different source, like a college degree. We can't self-educate and write our own degree. We have to go through a particular process, and a degree is rewarded or awarded to us according to our having met particular qualifications. Devotional service and pure love for Krishna is not like that. It's not that we have to go out and do something to earn it. No, we have to go in and do things so it will become revealed, so it will become manifest. It's an internal process, although sometimes it's manifest externally, but it's an internal process of purifying our heart, purifying our senses, so that by utilizing our senses in the service of the Lord, we can naturally and gradually awaken that dormant, loving relationship. So, Krishna Bhakti, it's natural to everybody. It's to everyone. You cannot force it on somebody, and we do not need to look outside of ourselves for it. We do have to look outside of ourselves for the process of how to reawaken it. Because on our own, we can't figure it out. And even by studying Prabhupada's books, having the Association of Devotees, chanting 16 rounds for so many years, so many decades, it's still very difficult to understand at times. But it is there lying dormant within our heart. And we simply have to follow the process, so that by the process of devotional service is synonymous with the process of purification. By engaging in bhakti yoga, automatically we're cleansing our heart, we're cleansing our mind of all the dirt and dust accumulated from millions and millions of births. And when all that dirt and when all that dust is finally removed, we can see our true self, which is a particle of God, a tiny part of God. And then we can also see God, see Krishna directly. So Krishna Bhakti, it's natural for everyone, but how is it evoked? How do we actually wake it up? That's Shradanadi Sudichitte. That's in a particular verse that I quoted from Madhya Lila. Let's see, what are the trends? By hearing, by chanting, the heart becomes purified. And when the heart is purified, then this Krishna prema awakens according to how much our heart is purified. So the more, Prabhupada says that when we clean the temple, for example, when we're washing the floor in the temple, or when we're washing Krishna's pots or Krishna's plates, when we're cleaning something that's directly related to Krishna, so Prabhupada explains that actually what we are doing is we're cleaning our heart. It's not so much that we are, of course, externally the temple is becoming cleaner and the pots are becoming cleaner. That obviously is there. But the process, has two manifestations, the external but more importantly is the internal. And the more surrender that we have to undergo in that cleansing process, the greater the results of that process. In fact, something just came to my mind. I moved to New Vrindavan in 1974. And 1974, it was, from the material perspective, you could say that it was an uncivilized place. And devotees who were here then, we sometimes say that civilization did not arrive until early to mid 1975, when Jayamurari Prabhu moved here. Jayamurari Prabhu he was a master plumber. He said, my daddy was a master plumber, my granddaddy, he was a master plumber. And Jayamurari Prabhu brought running water to New Vrindavan, and more importantly, he brought flush toilets, because prior to that time, we had outhouses, and we had a lot of shovels, and there were a lot of trees around. So that was the process. And so in Bahulaban, we had outhouse. And of course, there's an upstairs and there's a downstairs. And weekly, the devotees who served in the plow department, of which I was one for 9 months or so, I worked with Kashapa Prabhu. He was in charge. His name now is Varshana Maharaj. And a few other god brothers, Advaitacharya Prabhu, Mananath Prabhu, like that. Anyhow, because we had the horse teams and the horse equipment, we also had the responsibility of emptying the buckets from the basement of the outhouse. And it was a job that nobody wanted to do. And I don't know how much detail I should get into, but they were 35-gallon barrels overflowing come Monday morning. There was 2 under the men's and 2 under the women's. And we used to have to pick them up by hand, load them on the horse wagon, take them out into the field somewhere and dump them for fertilizer. It was great fertilizer. But there were immediate and somewhat drastic side effects from doing that. One is you ended up smelling like what you just associated with. Another one was, it wasn't unusual if you got some of the, how should we call it, devotee remnants on your hands, on your body somewhere. And we would do it just before lunch. We would empty them before lunch on Monday, because on Sunday, everybody ate a lot. And so there was a lot of business on Monday. And during lunchtime, nobody would sit near us. We have to sit over by ourselves for obvious reasons. It was a big surrender that nobody wanted to do, but somebody had to do it. And so it was the designated service of the plow department. And because it took a lot of surrender to do, Krishna rewarded accordingly. And I can't say, got this or I got that. This is particularly, no, I got one of these from Krishna for doing. No, not like that. But Krishna reveals within your heart. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. He will reveal more and more about himself, more and more about yourself to you, like this. And so the point is that the process of Krishna Bhakti, it's not an external thing, but things become revealed to you that are that are naturally within your heart. And that process takes place by, if you patiently give aural reception to the news of Krishna. Prabhupada said that should be the motto of our preaching. That we're patiently giving aural reception to the news about Krishna. And just reminds me of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he was publishing a newspaper in Calcutta. And somebody asked him, how can you print a newspaper about God? What kind of news is there about him? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur laughed, and he said that in Calcutta, every day you can print a newspaper about what's going on in the mundane place of Calcutta, about the activities that are going on in the spiritual world. Every day we could print hundreds of newspapers. There's so much activity going on, but who would buy them? Who would our audience be? Because nobody's interested in news about Krishna. So we have to patiently give oral, through the ear, reception to the news of Krishna. And also, Prabhupada said, just by practice, we can become perfect. He said, just like people practice to become a drunkard. They associate with drunkards, they practice drinking. You know, for those of you who have not tasted alcohol, and I hope there's many of you there, but whatever, alcohol is what you would call an acquired taste. In other words, when you first taste it, it's terrible. But because we associate with people who have a taste for that, we naturally acquire that same taste. And so we become like those we associate with. So if we practice drinking, we'll become a drunkard. If we practice smoking, we'll become a smoker. If we practice the Paro Dharma, the spiritual Dharma, the Krishna conscious Dharma, we will gradually become Krishna conscious. But it's not something that we are rewarded from externally. That's why I said it's eternally part within our heart. It's already there. That's why Krishna Das Kaviraj uses the word Nityasiddha Krishna Bhakti. We are eternally Krishna Bhaktas, but we've forgotten. And by practicing the process of Krishna consciousness, that Nityasiddha aspect becomes prominent. So there's different processes for the conditioned soul to achieve transcendence. I'm not going to go in, there's three of them, Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. We obviously are not concerned with the first two, because Srila Prabhupada explains that the Jnana Yoga and actual Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, are simply hard, laborious paths for no guaranteed fruit. Whereas Bhakti Yoga, it's a simple path and the results are guaranteed if we simply continue to follow the process. We cannot connect to Krishna by the process of Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Only by Bhakti Yoga can one understand who and what is God, not by any of the other processes. And it's interesting because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, teaching the Lord Kapila, he's instructing his mother Devahuti, third canto, chapters in the 20s. I don't know exactly which one, but he's explaining to his mother that knowledge has four pillars that support it. Just like I'm sitting in a chair. Most of you are probably sitting on chairs. My chair has four legs. And in the same, and that those four legs support me sitting on the chair. So in a similar fashion, knowledge has four principles that it rests upon, that support it. One of the principles is, let me see if I can find it here. I don't have to go by my memory. Oh, here we go. Sankhya. That's one of the principles that knowledge stands on. Yoga or mysticism, that's the second leg. Vairagya or renunciation, and tapa or austerity. And Srila Prabhupada defines them in one of those chapters in the third canto. Sankhya, he calls it an empirical philosophy for the analytical study of material conditions. Empirical philosophy means that you can experience it. It's an experiential thing. Yoga or mysticism is for the liberation of the pure soul from material bondage. We're all bound. We're bound by the material energy, And yoga is one of the processes by which we can remove those shackles that are binding us. Third leg is vairagya, or the acceptance, it's funny how Prabhupada worded it, accepting complete detachment. Acceptance of complete detachment from material enjoyment in life to elevate one to the highest spiritual understanding. And the fourth leg is tapas, or various kinds of voluntary austerities performed for spiritual perfection. So these four activities, these principles, we could actually call them, all knowledge is standing or resting, being supported by these four activities. And in order for anyone to have even mundane knowledge, we have to perform these different activities to various degrees. It's like, to get a, even to go, kids have to go to school. When they're 5, 6 years old, they don't want to go to school. They want to stay home and play. But no, they have to go to school. Parents send them to school so that in the future they will get an education like that. So there's tapasya, there's vairagya involved, but none of these things on their own will elevate one to the platform of Krishna consciousness, because they are just, that's not what they're equipped to do. And the only process that will elevate one to the process of Krishna consciousness is the process of devotional service. So it is almost time for me to stop. There's more that I have to say here. So let me just go back and just conclude that in the Gokula, in the planet of Krishna Loka, in the very intimate realms there, the gopas, the gopis, the cows, the trees, the birds, the plants, they know nothing else than serving Krishna and trying to please Krishna with their service. That loving Krishna is above every one of their duties, every one of their responsibilities. It's the supreme foremost thought. It's the supreme foremost consciousness that every entity in that realm has. And they don't care that Krishna is God. They don't even want to know. And that, because that particular knowledge hampers the expression of that loving sentiment of friendship, parental love, and conjugal love. The fact that, being aware of the fact that Krishna is God, I hesitate to use the word infects, but it's kind of what it's like. It infects those higher three relationships. And by this type of spiritual infection, it actually decreases the pleasure that the Lord receives. There's a famous verse, I don't recall I can't quote it, but I can just speak of it, where Krishna says that he accepts the prayers that are sung in the Vedas. I forget which one it is, the Rig Veda, I believe, the one with the hymns. He accepts those, but he is not much moved, emotionally moved by that. Krishna derives more pleasure when one of the gopis sulkingly rebukes him. Then he gets more pleasure from that than than hearing the songs, the hymns from the Vedas in glorification. Okay, so I will stop there. It's the process to reawaken our love for Krishna, and to reawaken our relationship. The process is well known. It's very clearly defined. We just need help from each other to continue on the path of that, to make progress, to further progress. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there's danger even on the royal road. And we are on the royal road. The path of devotional service, there is no road superior to this. But still there is danger, and the danger comes from within. That's where the greatest danger lies. that we will do something to hamper our spiritual progress. So it's very important that we have proper relationships with the devotees that surround us, so that when needed, we can ask for help. When needed, we can offer help. And in this way, we are bundled together like sticks. And in a bundle, we are so much stronger than we are individually. So thank you very much. I will stop there and we'll take any reflections, any questions, any comments. Hare Krishna. Someone needs to unmute, I guess. I don't know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribo.
Hare Prabhu. So thank you so much for the nice the lecture today. I was really reflecting on this verse that you pulled up from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. I wasn't aware of that. So I was just wanted to inquire that we were singing this song the other day that Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu, the dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees gives rise to devotional service. And service to the devotees is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. So that's the translation of the first verse. So I was just, in this definition from Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm kind of inquisitive to know what is the role of the devotees and the pure devotees in this. And second question, you were talking about we have one Diksha Guru and many. Yes, Prabhuji.
One question at a time, please. Otherwise, I
Okay.
may forget. By the
Okay.
time I understand the second or third question, the first one, it gone somewhere else.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
So repeat the first question, please.
So the first question was, according to the verse you pulled up from Chaitanya Charitamrita, what is the role of the other Vaishnavas in this process?
So in Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj is writing that pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the heart. It's not something to be gained by another source. So what is the role of the other devotees? The spiritual master takes the role of a physician. He's the doctor. When you're sick with something, everybody has experienced illness, I'm sure. We don't necessarily know the nature or the cause of the illness, what to speak of the cure. So we have to find a physician who specializes in a particular type of illness. And if we follow the instructions and directions given by the doctor, our natural state of health will return and our normal living condition, our life symptoms can actually return. Like when we're really sick, like in bed, it's not a normal life. You can't go to work, you can't enjoy with your friends and your family members like that. Our life is completely interrupted. Our normal life is completely interrupted. But when we are healthy, then our life is completely different. So in the same way, the spiritual master is the expert physician. He understands what is the nature of our illness, how we contracted that particular illness. And illness is the same, the details may differ. Our illness is we're thinking on the body. So when we come in contact with the spiritual master, if we're greatly fortunate, we will receive the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of bhakti, the seed of devotion. And we have to plant that first. When we get the seed, and actually, let me just take a step back. That's the function of the spiritual master. He gives us the seed. He shows us the path. He'll accompany us on the path, even if it takes millions or trillions of lifetimes. We don't want it to. We don't want to do that to our guru. And the role of the devotees is to help us, guide us, nourish us, support us, help pick us up when we fall down, when we're having doubts, when we're straying off the path. the role of the devotees is to protect us and to protect us from ourselves. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Okay. Let's see if anybody else has a question, and if not, we'll come back for question 2. Okay?
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, time for question 2.
No, actually, Rukmini Mata is asking a question, but we cannot hear her.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We cannot
Rukmini,
hear
go
you.
ahead, please.
You're on mute.
You're muted. There we go.
We're not here.
Cannot hear you, Rukmini.
You're unmuted, but we can't hear you at all.
Maybe you can type it, somebody can read it for you. In the meantime, Hari Prabhu can go for the second question.
Thank you. Hari,
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
go ahead with your second question.
Yeah, you're mentioning, Prabhu, that we take siksha from our god brothers and our god sisters and various friends that we made over the years.
No, we take shiksha from them. Shiksha means they are instructing us.
Yeah, we take siksha. That's
Yeah. I thought you said diksha.
Oh yeah. So we take siksha from them. So do we give the same awe and reverence that we give that we take siksha from the people we take siksha from, then we give the person who we take diksha from?
Yes and no. There is one verse in the Shikshastakam where Lord Chaitanya says, he teaches us how we should be humble. Chunadapi sunichena, Torapi sahishnana, manina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. One must be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. And the result of that, if in such a state of mind, we can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So we have to be ready to offer all respects to others. And Lord Chaitanya isn't necessarily referring to exclusively to devotees. He didn't say offer all respects to Vaishnavas or Vaishnavis. No, he said all respects to others, including the non-devotees. Because as exemplified in, there's a particular pastime in Bhagavatam, the Python man, I believe it was the Python man, he had many different gurus. He saw everybody and everything as his guru. So there are things that we can learn on the path of progress from anybody, everybody, anything and everything that happens to us. So from that perspective, if something or someone helps us to become more Krishna conscious, we have to have high respect for them. But the spiritual master is given a extremely prominent position. He is considered to be the ambassador of God. Prabhupada says he is worshipped as the Lord, as the servitor God. Whereas we don't necessarily offer that that level of respect to the other devotees or God brothers, God sisters, and friends that we associate with. We certainly understand that they are devotees of the Lord, and we honor and worship them as such, but the guru is on a different level. Good? Make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Rukmini, did you find your voice? No, okay. Any other questions, reflections?
Prabhu, like Rukmini Mataji posted a question in the.
Okay, go ahead.
Should I read it out? Okay.
Yes, please.
Prabhu, thank you for your class that went so deeply into so many beautiful points. My question is, you spoke about our eternal identities in the spiritual world and also how the false ego tries to act as the spirit soul. How do I relate to someone as a spirit soul rather than relating to their false egos or material identities when I don't perceive that spiritual identity, and even that person may not be awake to it themselves?
Good question. Thank you, Rukmini. We have to rise above. We have to utilize our intelligence to see things properly. The devotees don't necessarily see through the eyes. We see through the ears. We take oral reception and we gain knowledge in that fashion. And we also have to utilize our intelligence to curb the senses, which includes the mind. Intellectually, we can understand, okay, we're spirit soul, but we have to get to the point where it goes beyond intellect. It goes from here down into the heart. We're actually feeling it. And that process of, well, I'll call it descending, going from the brain, so to speak, into the heart, comes through service. Serving the devotees. Also, we can serve the non-devotees. I mean, that's what Vaishnavas do, by compassionately preaching and teaching them. Because in the material world, everybody is suffering so much. And we have to somehow or another find the ways and means to give them Krishna. Whether it's, if some people may be much more pious and they are receptive to the process of chanting. Some people are not so fortunate, but they are highly inquisitive, so we can convince them somehow. Take a book, read one of Prabhupada's books, and practically anyone, almost everyone will take prasad. It has to look nice and be attractive and like that. So in many different ways, we can give Krishna to the public and to the non-devotees. But for our own part, we have to, initially, we have to at least intellectually understand, okay, I'm not my body, and he's not his body, and she's not her body. So when they do something that may or may not offend us or offend others, we have to at least intellectually be transcendental and tolerant. Reminds me of a time when, I think it was Shrutikirti Prabhu, when he was on an airplane flying in Europe, one country to another in Europe. It was non-smoking flight. But there was a sports team or something. They were all obnoxious and rowdy and this and that. They were smoking on the plane. And Shrutikirti, it was bothering him, and he was concerned it was also going to bother Prabhupada. And so he called for a stewardess and said, hey, can tell them that they can't smoke. And she did. And of course, they kept on smoking. Things were much more loose back then. And he was going to take even a more drastic action. I don't remember what he was going to do. But Prabhupada looked at him and said, no, you must tolerate. You must learn to tolerate. If you cannot tolerate, how are you any better than them? So we have to learn things that, when we can do something, when we should do something, and when there's something that we should do is an internal process. Just tolerate, accept, okay, this is my karma, the situation, nothing I can do about it. And so, chant Hare Krishna. Does that answer? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. This is Naveen Krishnadas. How are you?
I'm good, Naveen Prabhu. How are you? Good to see you again, even if it's only little pixels of you.
Coming close to the camera. No, quick comment, Prabhu. Thank you. So we started a class saying that there's 4 relationships, but in general, there's a fifth one is also there. It's not predominant, which is a neutral, Shantarash in the spiritual world. Shantarash, which is neutral. Neutrality,
Yeah.
Sakya, and then Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. So my comment is that, so in the Sakya, which is a friendship. It is very, we loosely use the word friend.
Yes.
So there is a friendship among the friends, male and female, mother, father. We have a friendship with a sister, brother, and then the friendship with the spiritual master and the devotees, but one-on-one. But when Krishna has a relationship with his friends, that friendship is a very intensified friend. So there's only Prabhupada actually mentioned that in Western world we use the friend for everything. There is only one word.
Yeah.
So I did research a little bit. There's so many names of Bandhu, Mitra, Suhruda, Snehita, Priyatama, and Sakha. So each one has a gradation. When to use it depends on the relationship and the gradations and the seriousness of the
Yeah.
relationship. So that's happening in spiritual. That may not happen in the material world. So that is a comment actually. So now when Krishna has a relation with the friends in Gokula and Goloka, so all these things are happening. So there is also friendship with the neutrality also. Like in a Krishna is a friend with the mountains,
Yeah.
or the trees during the Santaras. And there's also friendship with the flowers. We have the conscious, but they are not in 4 categories, but they come into neutral. Santaras. Santaras, there is a friendship. In the friendship, there is a Vatsalya. And in Vatsalya, there is a Madhurya. In the one Madhurya, there is a friendship. This is not like a one-to-one. There's a many-to-many relationships. Amazing. You hit the point initially saying that, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for that elaboration, Hare Krishna. Thank you. He reminds me of something. You know, I grew up in Minnesota. Minnesota gets a lot of snow, a lot of cold. And, you know, when frozen water, not ice, but, you know, when snow comes down, we have one word for it. It's snow.
Mm.
But when you go way up above the Arctic Circle, I forget, I think there's something like they have 30 or 50 different words for
Wow.
snow. And because it has different characteristics and different properties and different attributes and such. And it's not just, you know, snow. It's this kind or that kind. And I was quite amazed when I heard that, but it made sense to me that something that is so prominent in your life, if you live above the Arctic Circle, snow is probably the majority of your life. You have to understand it, you know, much more thoroughly than, you know, down here in West Virginia or Columbus, Ohio, where it's snow, you know, it's all just snow. And also, it snows in the spiritual world. Prabhupada said it's different color. It's all different flakes are different colors, and it's not cold. It's very pleasing. It's very beautiful.
Because it's a reflected place, so naturally got to be some reality back there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Of course, Minnesota is now famous for something else going on. So,
So, Hare Krishna devotees, any other questions before we close out? Okay. Thank you so much, Gaura Shakti Prabhu, for giving us a wonderful lecture. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you soon in Columbus.
Me too.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Please forgive me for any offenses or errors or omissions that I made. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare
So,
Krishna.
Case Gaura Shakti
couple of last announcement. Yes, guys, Gaura Shakti Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Devotees, couple of last announcements. So, so many of you have seen the temple reopening. We sent few days back, and there is also a nice video that Hari Prabhu and Alek Prabhu has put together, and it was posted on WhatsApp and Facebook as well. Please take a look at it. And Krishna lunch is open. So if anybody wants to order prasadam, they have to call before 10 a.m. in the morning, so that Nitai Prabhu can make prasad and it will be boxed to go, and you can go and pick it up at your latest convenience in the afternoon. And we are fortunate to have a speaker from India. His name is Sanat Kumar Prabhu. who will be giving us the Savanam Saturday series. He will be joining us on next Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have a Sunday Feast lecture by His Grace Subhavilas Prabhu, who will be joining from India, Bombay as well. So we are fortunate to have two special guest speakers next week. Please stay tuned for all the email communications, and looking forward to have your association for those two programs. Thank you so much. And if anyone
Chandra
has
Prabhu.
anything, yes, Prabhu.
Very good.
Is it Sanat Kumar from Radha Gopinath Mandir in Chowpatty?
Yeah, he's a jewel, amazing personality.
From Juhu?
No. He's a Chopati. Now he
Yeah,
lives
okay.
in.
Yeah,
he lives
yeah,
in
I
Gaura.
know him.
Amazing. Don't want to miss him.
Haribol.
Yeah.
Prabhu, please send me that information. Could you WhatsApp it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We
Yeah,
should
it's
advertise
Sunday.
this more places. A lot of people want to take advantage of.
Mhm.
These two are very illustrious devotees.
Thank you.
With that, thank you so much, Prabhu, for joining today's Sunday Feast, and looking forward to have your association soon. Thank you, Gaura Shakti Prabhu, one last time. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol, Prabhu.